What is going on, Antra? This is day 60 of the 90-day challenge for me. 2/3. It's weird how time flies, but we are here at 60. Anyways, today I went ahead and got myself some more material for putting videos together on my niche. So I'd gone down to my buddy's place and renovated his lawn after work this morning. So Sundays when I go to work, we do half days on the weekends, and I do Sundays. My boss does Saturdays, but nonetheless, after that I went to work to my buddy's place and brought along the trailer with the aerifier on it. Walk behind aerifier. It's called a Toro 648, which is the staple aerifier, has been for probably about 20 years now when it comes to, well, greens aerification, but then it's utilized elsewhere on the golf course. But yeah, since we sometimes have these things on hand, leverage if you got it, and sure enough I did. But that was a part of the one part of the scope as a whole. So the process required I had him mow as low as possible. So here's how you reseed a lawn. You mow as low as you can, as far as where if you're to have your mower deck, you get that thing low. And the reason why you want to do that for the following applications is that you want as much exposure to the soil as possible for when it comes time to putting the seed down, because you want seed to have that contact with the soil. Just like if you're to plant a flower seed into a pot, you would push it down a little bit. Same idea. You want it to be within the environment that it's going to grow. So once you get that mowed low, then you come through with what's called a dethatcher. And what a dethatcher does, hence the name, it gets rid of the thatch mosquito. Dethatch mosquitoes out here too. The reason why you want to get rid of thatch, it's dead organic matter, it doesn't need to be there. It blocks sun, and also it blocks for the potential for your irrigation water and your fertilizer to make it to the soil itself, so that it can get to the roots of the grass. What thatching can happen is it can create a barrier called matting, eliminating the potential for those water nutrients to get to the roots as needed. So then there's that point, but then that also exposes more soil as well, just like mowing low in its own right. And then once you get done with that, then in our case, we went around and flagged all the irrigation heads that he has in the lawn, along with a couple roots here and there. And at this point, this is where that aerifier I mentioned comes into play. So you come in, and what you've probably seen this if you're not familiar with it, but an aerifier goes down and pulls those cores. And this is you can get different types of tines, like solid tine, needle tine, bayonet tine. None of those matter. In our case, it's hollow tine, which means it actually pulls up the soil. What's great about this is not only is it doing what it's meant to be, which is to help alleviate the soil compaction, to allow air to get into the soil, hence the name aerifier, but also it helps with water nutrients as well, like dethatching. And then when you have these holes there and you go to seed, the seed has a hole to go into as well. So you're going to have some that go in the hole, some that stay on the surface. So that's what the aerification comes into play. Once you do that, then what you want to do is bring in a starter fertilizer or an establishment fertilizer. Same thing. It's that second number that's going to be on the bag, which is identified as phosphorus. And what phosphorus does is it promotes root and shoot development. So in other words, root, it will help establish better, to create stability. More root means more potential to bring up the nutrients that are required along with the water, but also with the shoot growth. And it also can establish inflorescence, otherwise known as budding, just like flowers. So if you want your flowers to grow and get more bloom, get anything that says phosphorus on it. So that's one fertilizer. The other one is called Milorganite. I'll let you look up what that's all about as far as what it actually is. But what's great about that is an organic fertilizer. And organic in our field means it has a carbon chain. So it's not like it's gonna be sold at your market, and they can put organic on it or something like that. But what's great about this is it's a low percentage nitrogen that will last for a long time, so it's a slow release. When you put it down, it'll sit there in the soil, feed the grass that you had just mowed really short. This is the one exception where I would break that 1/3 rule that I mentioned before, but it will help bring it back to life a little bit because you shocked it, took a lot out of its foliage. But then also, as the seed is about ready to establish, it'll still be there for that to be uptaken as well for the new grass that's going to establish. And then in our case, after that, no, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. After you get the seed, excuse me, the fertilizer, and then we get the seed. So we put the seed down. In our case, we used tall fescue grass seed. It's great in the sun, and also is drought resistant and can take a lot more traffic than the other cool season grasses. So once the seed, fertilizer, I mentioned that, then we bring in what's called a roller. I made my own roller, but that is to help with the soil to seed contact. His case, what I was about to jump ahead to, is the fact that he does have an irrigation system, which I helped him resurrect. We set that up to where he'll have it water light but very frequent. His setup would allow him to water up to 3 separate times of the day, so I split it up every 8 hours to make up the full day at 15 minutes at a time. And what he'll need to do while I'm not there, because he lives there, is that keep an eye on the bare dirt that he can see and gauge if it needs more water or less water. If you've got too much water, it'll flood out, move that seed, which means that it will no longer have that soil to seed contact. But if you have too little, if your grass seed does get wet, then and it dries, then it's game over, because the cell membranes